So first question is, what is Kelian doing during this meeting with Koranu that he is magically compelled to not attend?
I knew you were going to ask me that first. See, Kelian can't even go like outside for like a breath of fresh air because they probably wouldn't even let him back in. So,
they would.
Would they?
You don't see any evidence that anybody would inhibit your
Right.
passage through either of the gates.
Then Kelian would just walk right around outside because he is so done with this place and so done with these people.
I mean, there's just wilderness on either side. The north side is more mountainous than the entrance you came up. You came up through a pass, mostly through like a tundra, kind of wintry plains. So, I mean, there's not much to see out there.
He just kind of wants to be outside the walls for the time being.
Okay. Does anybody else not attend the meeting with Koranu?
We got along famously last time, so I don't see any reason why I shouldn't go.
So Amuleth gets word to Koranu that you all would like an audience. And in Amuleth's opinion, he tells Koranu that he should grant the request. And so Koranu does. And so you all are meeting in... Yeah, you can all meet in his private quarters. He doesn't have a solar or anything because he doesn't want to give the impression of like being royalty. He has his private quarters, but usually when he does business, he'll do it in one of the common rooms. When he has private business, he closes the door to his quarters. He's not really the kind to put on airs, in other words.
He just thinks he's better than everybody else.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, he doesn't
Not
need
the
to
kind
put
of
an air
put on
for
airs.
that. That's just who he is.
So would this be like business that he does in his public space, or?
No, this would be up here in 24. It's his private quarters.
Okay.
Because Amuleth has told him that this is a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So the four of you are there. And Koranu asks what this is all about.
Let's see. So Riot says, we have a request for you. And it involves the Order as part of it.
And he says, go on.
We need your help getting an artifact that mistakenly ended up in Bahamut's hoard.
To which he scoffs.
The box I'm talking about, that's the artifact, contains an item of great power that we intend to use against slaver Jandar, whom you know.
And as soon as you mention Jandar, he holds up his hand and says, enough, I will not hear of this.
Wait.
And then Amuleth chimes in and says, you're going to want to hear what they have to say. And then Koranu defers to his betters.
So, from what we understand, this crusade against Jandar has consumed a small fraction of your order. Some members have gone off to join the crusade against him. Some have been permanently detained. Some of them are either dead or in the enslavement of Jandar in the city of Raz even now. What we propose is threefold. One, we handle it on our own. No members of the Order will ever need to join this crusade again. Frees up more of them to protect the mountain. Two, if we succeed, we'll get your members back for you, strengthen your numbers here on Mount Celestia. And three, if we can get the hammer back that caused these recruits of yours to turn away from the Order, that could be a powerful weapon in your hands.
And he looks at Amuleth. And he says, why would I have any interest in aiding these lowlings in Akazriel's forsaken crusade? And Amuleth begins choosing his words very carefully. And he says that Akazriel's folly has caused the Order a great price. And these people are in their own manner of goodness and charity, expressing interest in returning to us what was taken. Bahamut, you're not talking to Bahamut, you're talking to Koranu. Koranu looks at Mahogany.
Mhm.
And he says, "You follow the aimless, wandering god."
Mahogany's thinking to himself, right, Bahamut followers, I remember this one. And he goes, that's right.
And he says, "Though your god lacks direction, focus, or purpose, he is nonetheless a god. And nonetheless, you revere and worship him in your own way." And he looks at Riot, and he says, "So if the devil child came to your door and pronounced that she had a grand quest for you to undertake, and your part in it was to chain your god to a room so that he may not wander, what would your response be?"
How interesting would the room be? I mean, he's never been chained to a room before. It might be a new experience for him. Maybe I should talk to him.
And he says, very impatiently, "I know it is not in your nature to answer direct questions with direct answers, but you are in my house, and you've come to me seeking aid. You would do best not to play games with me, son."
Mahogany looks back confusedly.
"Is this a thing you would do to your wandering god?"
I mean, I'd probably ask him first.
And the act of...
Mahogany is looking around panically. He doesn't understand what this guy wants of him.
Make a religion check.
Ciclon chimes in. I think I know what he's getting at. He's saying that.
And he interrupts and says, "I did not ask you, masked man."
16, I think that is.
Okay. You don't consider Lu to be a wandering god. You consider him to be a god of exploration and creativity and curiosity. However, you get where he's going with it. For a priest...
Oh, never mind. Religion is intelligence. Sorry, I thought it was wisdom for some reason. It's still a 13. It's still reasonable for a low DC.
You get where he's going with this. For a priest who receives powers from a deity that he ostensibly has an understanding with, to ask of that deity to act against its nature, that strikes you as something that even in your kind of flamboyant and willful Mahogany way, at the very least, it would leave a bad taste in your mouth. And you know that Lu is not the vengeful sort of god. But if Lu were the vengeful sort of god, this may be the kind of thing that would cause him to deny his priestly privileges that he grants you. So whereas Lu would probably let it roll off his back, "Oh, Mahogany, he's so silly." For a lawful god, like Bahamut, it may pose a greater problem. But Koranu doesn't understand that, because Koranu only follows a lawful god. He's looking at it like Lu is going to act like my god because he is a god. Mm-hmm. Whether that leaves you more confused or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide.
Alright, Mahogany will, try to respond a little directly to his new insight.
Okay.
And he's saying, so you're saying that you think, Bahamut wouldn't be happy with you doing this?
He says that it is the Platinum Dragon's nature to collect wealth. And he does not do it out of greed, but out of love. He collects dangerous things, powerful things, vast and countless amounts of wealth that in the hands of mortals could be turned to ill purpose. He says this box that you've given to him is better off in his protection than in your hands.
So what if you assist us with the box? The box remains in your keeping for us to use as we need to. And then at the end of this, rather than giving the hammer to the Order, we give it to Bahamut. Then he still has whatever was in the box, unless it's been used up in the keeping. And then he also has this hammer now.
And Amuleth looks impressed at that offer. Koranu is thinking it over. He looks at Ciclon. Says, "You were speaking out of turn earlier. With your apologies, I would now hear what you have to say."
That's fine. I think Mahogany's finally picking it up.
Does Ciclon wear any indication? He's wearing a wooden holy symbol made by Mahogany, right?
He's wearing his wooden faction symbol and
Symbol, right?
And then
He made it himself. I just assisted.
And then
Right.
the Amaterasu symbol that he made.
He asks you what your interpretation of the light of Amaterasu is.
Ever since I got to Sigil, Amaterasu through the priest from whom I've sought guidance and clarity from in the past, has seen fit to show me that what I think is what she's trying to say is that her light is about allowing people the freedom to choose their own. To choose their own. What am I trying to say here? God, I'm having a total goddamn brain fart here.
So, I mean, do you kind of stammer out a response?
A little bit, because Ciclon, he's not a priest,
Right.
He's just a lay follower who's been granted some measure of power.
So, you kind of stammer out a response, kind of confusedly for a moment.
Yeah.
And he says, if the Devil Child came to you with the proposition that you should ask Amaterasu for aid,
Right,
that she must sit in darkness, would you ask this of her?
I think that if the cause was just, then if I thought that the cause was just, then I think she would be amenable to something of that nature.
And Amuleth reiterates, and Koranu, I believe this cause is just. Koranu then turns to Serenity. And he says, you, child of the Twin Paradises, do you hold the gods of hearth and home in reverence? The gnomish deities that raised you?
I respect them. I'm no priest or pilgrim, but I respect most just and good gods. I have a personal favoritism towards them, but that's just because of familiarity.
He says that he has only passing knowledge of this weapon that Akazriel stole. He has only heard legends of what it could do. It hasn't been wielded in combat since time immemorial, and when it was, it did indeed reduce mountains to rubble. He says that this sort of thing, this sort of weapon is not meant to be in the hands of mortals, and that there are many noble houses on Mount Celestia that hold weapons like this, passed down through their generations, believing them to be safe, and only through treachery such as Akazriel's are they made unsafe. He says, but I do not believe that you intend to make it safe. I believe that once you, weak in spirit as you are, and he's regarding all four of you as he says this, though your intentions are pure, once you hold this device in your hands, you would decide that you would be a better keeper than the Platinum Dragon. And he turns to Amuleth, and he says, this is my reservation, that these are the people, or these are not the people we would trust with such a task. And what's the response to that?
Riot points out that the only alternative is trusting people like us with it, is trusting his own people.
Which doesn't advance the mountain safety at all.
Well,
Karunu-
where it is right now, at least where we think it is right now, that is that's clearly not the best place for it either.
And Korinu is inclined to agree. He says he is conflicted. He says that would not for age and frailty he may consider undertaking this task himself. I must spend a day in prayer. I must convene with the Platinum Dragon, that I know his feelings on the subject.
Take your time.
And then he dismisses the five of you.
Okay.
And Amuleth, as soon as the doors close behind you, he says, that went rather well, considering.
Yeah. Listen, to all of you, I just want to apologize for whatever mess we ended up getting into from here on.
You don't need to apologize. If anyone does, it should be me.
Serenity's just gonna pat both of them on the back. Whatever mess we got into was whatever mess we were intended to get into. It's fine.
And on
Not
that note,
agree.
let's go get dinner.
Yeah.
Let's find Kelian.
And you're told he stepped outside of the gate for the day.
That sounds alarming.
Maybe he'll find a new house that a restaurant will move into.
I mean, to be fair, I don't see that. I'm not surprised that he wanted to get out of here for a little while.
Indeed. But did any of us see Riot casting that spell on him?
I'm going to assume
Oh.
no.
I assumed Mahogany saw it, just, didn't care. Oh, Riot.
So, two quick questions. Kelian, do you return to the Holdfast at nighttime?
Yeah.
Okay. So you and your companions reconvene, and you're told what transpired.
Yeah.
Second question. Is anybody doing anything significant the day that Korinu is spending in prayer?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Probably go visit the temple
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah.
That evening, Mekruden finds you in the commons, and notably, Korinu has not been seen since yesterday. And Mekruden tells you that Korinu has requested all five of you, including Kelian.
All right.
Okay.
I don't
No
know
getting
if
into
that's
this
a
one.
good idea.
I think the suggestion's worn off by now.
Oh yeah, it'll only last 8 hours.
Yeah, but we. All right.
And he requests that the five of you come to the temple to speak with him.
Well, I don't think he's going to cause violence inside his own temple. I think that would be
That sounds
beyond
like
him.
exactly something he would do.
I mean, he'll save it for the yard.
Yeah.
Kelian, just try not to murder anyone in front of him.
I haven't murdered anybody yet.
Well,
Gosh.
that's,
There you go. Good
that's
job.
very not true.
You started early.
Well, no, he hasn't murdered anyone since he's been in the temple. Come on now, give him some credit.
You way to go on all that not murdering.
We're proud of you.
Good
Full
job on
credit.
not murdering.
Me and Riot were talking to each other, and we decided you get a gold star.
So the five of you come into the temple, room number 15, where all of the gods revered by the order are here. And he's standing in front of the statue of Bahamut. And he says that he is convened with the Platinum Dragon, and that the Platinum Dragon requires of him an act of contrition.
For asking?
And he says, my request will be granted under the condition that I hold myself responsible for what befalls the property of the Horde. So I will require of you, indicating the 5 of you, I will require of you to put forth a champion. And then he looks at Kelian, and he says, and I'm hoping you will volunteer for this role.
What?
For what purpose?
He says that who better to retrieve such a dangerous weapon from such a dangerous place than an accomplished thief and burglar. He says that some consider dragons to be thieves. Their amassing of wealth, their greed, their vanity, well known. However, he cannot risk the thief taking this box from the Horde, or taking this weapon from Jandar, and not returning it. And he says, so, I would require Kelian, and this is the first time he's used your name. He says, I would require Kelian to submit to Bahamut's might and justice. And he bids you step forth.
Is someone in the group getting made a paladin Bahamut against their will again? This is what happened the last campaign we came here.
Yeah, that is true.
Kelian looks
It's kind of
mighty
a thing with
confused.
Do you step forward, or do you run from the hall screaming?
No, Kelian will step forward.
Okay.
His bond is that he's good for his word, so sure.
Okay. And he tells you that he will require you to do the thing that you and your companions have claimed you were able to do. That you will be made a loan of this item from Bahamut's Horde in order to bring down this enemy of the Order, to return to them the strength that was taken from Akazriel's folly, and specifically, perhaps foremost, to return this weapon of great might and power so that it may be placed in Bahamut's Horde afterwards. He's casting the Gia's spell on you. So, the first question is, you get a saving throw against this spell.
Okay.
You are allowed to willingly fail this saving throw if you want. It's a wisdom saving throw. The DC is going to be something like probably 16 or 17. I'd have to do some math.
If I resist, he knows I resist?
Oh, yeah.
No, Kelian won't resist.
Okay. Here's how it
We
works.
tried this on Drow before.
You are charmed by Koranu, and you are given the task of reclaiming this powerful hammer and returning it to the Palace of Bahamut. If at any point between now and the end of the Gias, you act in a way contrary to that order, you take 5d10 psychic damage.
All right.
The spell remains in effect until you either accomplish the task, or there are various ways that it can be removed that Kelian doesn't know.
Okay.
As Koranu is casting this spell, he's speaking very formally, and he requires you to recite an oath to him that you will take this task in all sincerity, and that you will see it through to your utmost ability, and that you know to betray this task would mean death.
So the way Kelian rationalizes all this is that this is a 100% business proposition. That he is performing, like, his services were hired and rendered, and they will be, therefore, totally done out as he is wont to do, and therefore he takes the oath without a problem.
This whole Gears thing is just collateral, basically.
Yeah.
And then he bids Kelian rise. And he says here, in sight of your companions and in sight of all the gods, know that you have taken the first step in your own contrition. And that if you return here and the task is complete, that I will call you brother.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves there.
And he looks at the rest of you, and he says, your companion's life is in your hands. Should any of you betray this task, you betray him to death or worse.
Right, Nance. Understood.
Believe me, I am personally motivated in this endeavor.
Kelian figures he's already in this situation anyway, so again, nothing really new for him.
In for a penny, in for a pound, eh?
Mahogany thinks to himself, I'm pretty sure I could heal him through that.
So here's what transpires over the next day. A silver dragon is seen in the skies. Lands directly in the yard of the place. And I mean, a lot of people here are in awe at the sight of this dragon. Dragons are not a totally unknown sight in the skies on this layer. But again, Bahamut's realm does not reach to the 4th layer. Only his palace. So they are uncommon. And having one land here, pretty much the only time this ever happens is when Koranu is personally given a task from one of Bahamut's proxies. Which has probably not happened in 20 or 30 years. This dragon is not a messenger. This dragon is a courier, and he comes bearing the familiar box. He asks that Kelian and the Aasimar step forward and retrieve it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And again, the dragon speaks very formally, saying that the Platinum Dragon loans you this object from his hoard in the understanding that it will be used to do great good, to the understanding that it will lessen the pain of those in the multiverse, and in the understanding that it will be returned in good faith.
Yeah.
And then Kelian pockets it and fucking runs.
No, Kelian's good for his word, man. Sure.
The dragon exchanges a few curt words with Koranu in Draconic. Just a very simple and formal greeting, and then the dragon takes flight and leaves. Kelian, you once again have the box.
Yay!
Hooray! We got the box back! Yay!
Inventory.
Into the bag!
Those of you who have not been watching Flumphscape, this box has had quite an adventure.
Yes.
Bahamut just lent us the thing that we used to own.
Yeah. Great.
It only
great, I
gave
love
to
it.
them because we didn't understand what they were asking.
Well done.
There are no portals back to Sigil anywhere near the Holdfast.
Yeah, it's going to be a kind of a trip to get back.
That said, the path down the mountain is much, much easier than the path up.
That
Well,
makes
hold on.
sense.
One other thing.
Right?
Now that we've got the box and Amuleth is here,
Mhm.
should we not have him open it?
Yeah, we should have him open
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's in the box?
Okay. He says that to take it with you for now. That he will meet you in Sigil. This is not a thing that he would do where it can be construed as the actions of the Order.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
now. All right.
All right.
And how do we get there?
He doesn't accompany you, but if you take the road south from the Holdfast, it continues south past the river where you met the Mutter, the Dwarven Mutter, a while ago. As long as you're continuing down, the path will take you directly back to the first layer. It's always easy to turn away from the path to righteousness, he says. The road will eventually lead you back to the Silver Sea.
Okay.
All right.
And from there, it's just a matter of taking a boat out to the glowing portal to Excelsior, which is on the Outlands, and then from there, Serenity can get you to the portal to Bitopia.
Sounds good.
As we're walking down, Mahogany's
Right.
like, man, this is easy. Turning from righteousness.
And the path is very easy and very pleasant. In fact, we don't need this holdfast map anymore. Let me go ahead and hop into Imgur. Y'all remember Imgur? Imgur's good times.
Imgur is a good time.
What's an immigrant?
Imgur is
Shut
a
up.
website that almost never works.
I love Imgur. It's the best of all the websites. I love Imgur.
Oops, that's not what I
It's
wanted
my
to do.
friend.
I think the most bewildering thing is how I've never had even a single problem with Imgur in all my years.
I don't have problems a lot of times. It's just I get a message saying, "Oh, our servers are overloaded. Try again." And then usually I just refresh it and it immediately works. But I get that error all the time.
I don't use it just because I use my own web space to host images.
Oh, this guy has his own web space.
And that's the thing. I also have my own web space, but the week we first started playing Flumph, I didn't have access to it, so I just used Imgur, and now I'm just using it out of habit. So, yeah. It takes you 2 days going down the mountain, and very easy travel. As long as you're always walking downhill, travel is swift, safe, and pretty pleasant. Even the weather cooperates all the way down.
I was about to say, do we need the climbing gear? Are we going to need to
Final Fantasy
ourselves
VII
in,
snowboarding
or-
minigame. That's what we're doing.
No, because you're going down the mountain, not up.
All right, just making
Um,
sure.
They're right.
Surprise
This is the
avalanche!
easiest thing I've
Gotcha
ever done.
again.
So when you arrive at the Silver Sea, you have a couple of options. You can either swim out to the floating portal, or you can charter a ship that will take you there, or you can charter a ship that will sail on the ocean and lead to one of the
Border towns?
neighboring plains of Mount Celestia, one of which being Bitopia. So you have a couple of options on which way to go.
Let's go ask one of the Celestians to do it for us. They'll do stuff for free. It's great. Like, I got all kinds of favors from people.
Are we back in? Is this back in Heart's Faith or?
Yeah, if you choose to be, you can go back to Heart's Faith.
Okay.
That's an option. But there are other villages and towns along the Silver Sea where you could get a boat.
Yeah, let's not go back there. That was a terrible place.
Not-
It's probably a bad idea to go back
Also,
there.
that's
anyway.
where Yolana lived, which is why I was wondering.
Okay, so you're going to find just like a fishing village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be hard to find a ship that takes you to the Excelsior portal then, because that is offshore of Heart's Faith. Most likely from here you could charter a vessel or go on a trade vessel headed for one of the oceans of Bitopia.
I'll let Serenity decide. I mean, she's the one who kind of knows these outlands.
Yeah.
I'd say trade vessel makes the most sense.
Okay.
Well, if we're out in the Outlands, I could help you out. But I don't know anything about Bitopia.
Well, that's where Excelsior is. Excelsior is the gate town on the Outlands that leads into Mount Celestia. The point of light off the shore of Heart's Faith leads to Excelsior. But it sounds like you guys don't want to go back to Heart's Faith.
Yeah.
And it would be difficult to
Not
go to a
particularly.
fishing village and be like, hey, can we charter a boat that just goes to Heart's Faith? We don't want to go to Heart's Faith. We don't want to tell you why. So, okay.
I think we'll basically tell anyone why. We don't give a shit.
Serenity,
Yes.
roll 3d4.
Four, 4, 3.
Okay, that's a pretty high roll.
Yep.
Multiply that by 10. That's how much damage the Dragon Landing on Mutate does.
So it's an 11-day journey by sea to the portal that Serenity is most familiar with in Bitopia. That time encompasses sailing to the Bitopian Ocean, disembarking at a trade village there, and then traveling overland to Serenity's familiar territory.
And now we get back to Sigil where we are all wanted for.
Before that, I'm going to very quickly grab my Pepsi out of the fridge, and then when we come back, I have something on the boat that you guys might enjoy.
Goody.
I hope it's an octopus.
Maybe it's Aunt Nancy.
You're an octopus.
That's true. And I'm on the boat. I'm only
That's Aunt
part
Nancy.
octopus on my mother's side.
I bet it's Aunt Nancy.
You know what? It's just really driving me crazy. I'm wondering, what does McDohl think it is?
Which McDohl?
Yes.
I was honestly expecting octopus or giant kraken, to be specific. Though there wouldn't be a kraken on Mount Celestia. So
It would just be a lawful
Is it-
good kraken.
I was going to say, is there such thing as a lawful good kraken?
Yeah, they're really polite. They're called a cracking.
All right, so this is where I reveal that your boat has been hijacked by a necromancer, and
Oh, neato.
And if you will all please turn to episode 1 of the Salute the Flumph campaign.
Yeah, there you go.
we'll just take over from there.
That would have been a much different campaign because we would have gone sailing off into nowhere, kicked the
Kelian.
necromancer off the boat.
Yeah.
It's raining very, very hard one night, and you are having difficulty getting to sleep in the rocking hold of this ship that you all have chartered. Eventually, though, you do drift off into a fitful sleep, and your eyes suddenly snap awake with a crack of thunder. And I mean, you're drenched, and you're shivering, and you're standing on the deck of the ship, having sleepwalked out here. And you look around for the watchman who's supposed to be on deck, and you don't see him. You see points of light behind you in the cabins of the ship, and one that should be hanging off the front of the ship, a large lantern, but it's been doused. And you're about to turn and go back inside before you hear a familiar voice next to you. And it says, "You've been asking very strange questions about me." And you turn,
Called it.
and sure enough, there's Aunt Nancy leaning against the rail of the ship,
Wow, Nick, nice job with that gas.
completely dry.
Well, fancy seeing you here, I guess.
He says, "You know, if there's anything you'd like to know about your good old Aunt Nancy, you can simply ask. We're friends. I consider us friends. You don't have to sit in a magic pool in the worst mountain in the multiverse."
Well, sure.
Do you know what I like best about you, Kelian?
Considering the way the past few days have been going, I'm sure you're going to tell me.
He says, "You are a thief and a liar, unrepentant, a man after my own heart." And he says, "That's why I bring this news to you, that you may tell your companions, or not tell them, at your leisure, that round 3 is ready to begin."
All right.
And you have a decision to make. Round 3 involves stealing. It involves deception. It involves thumbing your nose at the gods. All the things you're good at, my boy. But
Kelian's waiting for a butt. Yeah, there we go.
there it is. I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you prefer, I will feed you a cover story that you can feed your companions, so that you, at the end of round 3, come out so far ahead that they never need know you've ever pulled the wool over their eyes. I'm offering you wealth. The kind of wealth that you would not walk away from.
You tricked us into being in your
You're not there.
Survivor campaign.
Kelian looks a little. Yeah. He looks a little bit filled with. He's giving a disbelieving look, like, all right, yeah.
So you say yeah?
No, he says, of course.
Okay.
What's the cover story?
He first explains the task at hand, which involves theft, deception, and murder. And your
Okay.
target is a goddess.
Well,
He says there is a minor goddess of no import who has a scant number of followers on a few dying prime material worlds. And that her power is fading very quickly. And that your task will be to steal an item from her home realm. And that the loss of this item, this powerful artifact, would weaken her to the point where she would have nothing left. Her body would be cast to the astral plane, which is where dead gods float endlessly. A group that does this proceeds to round 4 of the game.
That's really moving up the stakes.
He says, here's the cover story. The cover story, what you can tell your companions, is that this item was in fact stolen by a twist of law that was abused by the followers of this god. Your companions, on the whole, they don't have any problem thwarting the powers of law, do they?
Not really.
Then it'll be an easy sell. He says, by doing this evil power will be reduced in stature. And the artifact you can keep for yourself. You need not even tell them that the quest involves theft or deception or murder. Keep the spoils for yourself and become a very wealthy man.
How much time do I have to think about this?
He says as much time as you need, but the game never takes a break. If you're the last team to accomplish the task, you lose. He reaches into his coat and he pulls out what looks like the head of a trident, made of iron and flecked with rust, and he hands it to you.
What have you done with Eric?
And you look at it, and you've never seen the symbol on this trident before. It's 2 large fish intertwined with each other. He tells you that your quarry resides on the plane of Mechanos. And from there, he leaves it up to you. Tips his hat, takes his leave.
As soon as Aunt Nancy goes, Kelian once again just says, everything about this plane is the absolute worst.
Well, for all you know, you're on Bitopia by now.
Sure.
So what do you tell your companions when they wake up the next day?
Nothing right now.
Nothing. You just keep the symbol to yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and mark that on your sheet so we know that you have it.
Rusty trident head.
Rusty trident head.
Kelian needs some time to think about this.
Okay. And from there, the journey to the portal to Sigil is non-eventful. Welcome home, kids.
Phew.
Okay.
So
About
who's holding the box?
Kelian.
Kelian's
Kelian's not
got-
letting the box out of his sight anymore. For any number of reasons,
put it
Kelian's
in
not
the
letting
one
it go.
thing in this campaign, it's never give Riot anything you care about.
You could put it in the solution bag. It'll be safe in there.
Nope.
It
Nope.
was safe in there the last time.
Nope.
So just a big old bucket of nope.
No. One, he has this business proposition with this terrible old paladin that he's going to steal some hammer, give it to Bahamut, and then return the box. But he's good for his word, so he's going to do that. In order to do that, he needs to keep hold of this box, and it's totally not what the spell is telling him to do.
Not bad.
So you all have been gone for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Much of that was the journey by boat to Bytopia and then the travel overland. It's now Toma the 27th. And there is some news crisscrossing the streets of Sigil as you come back.
Okay.
One of the
What's
first
chatting?
things you learn, because it's of importance to you all personally, is what went down at the Temple of Bahamut. The Harmonium came rolling up to the joint, demanding that they return some item. And there's no agreement amongst the people who saw it happen or heard it secondhand of what it was. Some say it was a great weapon. Some say one of the priests of Bahamut stole it from the Harmonium. Some say that the Harmonium learned about it and went to seize it. No agreement on the story. But the item was not given up. And it looked like the Harmonium were about to just raid the temple, which is not totally unheard of in Sigil, but it would be kind of unheard of to happen to a lawful deity. This is the kind of thing that you would expect to happen at, like, the Temple of Lu, because fuck Lu.
Dude, everyone loves Lou.
Apparently not Brick Road.
However, the leader of this pack of Harmonium ordered everyone to stand down and return to the barracks. And that would obviously be Hollis Dwath. A few things happened in the aftermath of this. One, it sparked a great debate especially amongst governors, about whether or not there should be a law against this kind of action being taken against religious institutions in Sigil, which happened to be a very popular kind of law amongst lawfuls in the city, but not so much against chaotics who feel that that kind of thing would be abused. So that debate has been raging all month, and most Sigilians are just over it, because most Sigilians don't have a dog in that race. They're not religious anyway. There are other things that they need to be focused on. There was an official condemnation against the Harmonium for this action. The Harmonium, of course, defied that condemnation. And the questions begin to come out about why they needed this item. Allegations began to surface about this item pointing to corruption in the Harmonium, which you all know to be true. And that's why they wanted it. The Harmonium insists they wanted it because it was evidence in an ongoing investigation. So that argument's been happening. Dwath was dismissed from his post, having seemed to be in derelict of duty. And then he disappeared from public view. Following up on that line of inquiry, it seems that Hollis left for a Harmonium outpost in Arcadia to report for rehabilitation. Everybody is against the Harmonium in the city right now. The whole to-do with Nilesia's proclamation has fallen by the wayside of the Harmonium kind of freebooting their way into churches and demanding that they give up their rightful property. the governor's released an official condemnation. The Mercy Killers have started taking over some of the Harmonium's task, acting as both police and prison.
That's great. That's great. That's
Quick
really
question,
super
sorry I
great.
missed that. Where did Holostwaff flee to? Or report to?
Arcadia.
Rumor has it
Arcadia?
that he's reported to Arcadia, which is the Harmonium home plane, for rehabilitation. The Indepts in the Bazaar that had been kind of putting up a protective perimeter that until now has only amounted to minor skirmishes with the Harmonium. The Harmonium on the 21st of Thomas celebrate a day called Good King Garfarian's Name Day. King Garfarian was the founder of the Harmonium on their homeworld on the Prime Material Plane. And on this day, the Indepts got very violent and pushed back hard against the Harmoniums. There were many deaths on both sides. The borders of the Bazaar were a bloodbath. 3 entire Harmonium squads were jumped and killed. And when the Harmonium attempted to push back against it, the public outcry was such that what did you expect was going to happen? You know, you're enforcing this terrible proclamation from the Mercy Killers. You're jackbooting your way into temples. You've been cracking down on Indepts for months, and they have found no support in this. So the Indepts have been emboldened in the Bazaar and the surrounding areas as far as patrolling their own streets and enforcing their own law, which has caused this subfaction of Mercy Killers, who are now acting as police, to kind of take up a perimeter around the Bazaar. So tensions there are higher than ever. Elements in the Mercy Killers are calling for Dwath's head because of his involvement with this, what they call theft at a religious institution. Everybody seems to have forgotten that it was Dwath that gave the order to stand down. None of your names come up in any of this at any point.
Wow. Wow, we just fucked the town up. I love it.
Everything will work out for the best.
Except for
Sure,
the part
the
where
lady-
there were dozens of deaths.
Yeah, except there were dozens of people dying all over the place.
People die every day.
I'm sure the Lady of Pain is preparing a nice maze for us. It'll be fine.
In general, the streets of Sigil right now are less safe than any of you have ever known them. This is especially happening in and around the Gymnasium, which is known as especially to you guys, as one of the most peaceful and welcoming places in the city. But some of this spillover of Indepts versus the Mercy Killers, who have taken on the task of the Harmonium, is starting to spill over into the Guildhall ward. It's starting to spill over into the ladies' ward too, but that's less noticeable because there's a lot more protection and order there. A lot of nobles who live in the ladies' ward have taken it upon themselves to hire personal police to protect their grounds. And there's been skirmishes between them and the Harmonium and the Mercy Killers. So, your little stunt at the Temple of Bahamut started a chain reaction that caused public outcry against the Harmonium like you've never known.